So I'm gonna go right into it. I think me and Mikal made the same mistake of going in a very ambitious topic and putting a 20-minute presentation. I realized that when I was actually starting to build a presentation, and I was like, "Yikes! I made a problem." So the saving grace is that Andres and what he just talked is kind of all connected. So I'm gonna be using some of their examples and things that they have been saying. However, I might be speaking a little bit faster just to make sure I'm on time. And in advance, apologies for that, but hopefully it will be worth it, right? So super quickly about us, we are an independent gaming company from Serbia. We build casual free-to-play games, marble shooters, and these are our two games that are now live, and we're actually soft launching two more games later this year. One has already passed the first initial test. I'm gonna jump right into the topic of today, which is actually what Mikhail was just mentioning in terms of cooperation between product and marketing in pursuit of a win. So to put things into perspective, our team 2 years ago was completely working in silos. So it was basically like something is happening in the game, like the production team is working on something, and then user acquisition just grow it. So we have no idea what is going on. We have no idea what's going to be in the production like 6 months from now. We kind of know what's happening this month, but further from that, nothing. No influence over the KPIs that should be affected. So we were really working in silos, and it sounded familiar when he was mentioning it before. Even when good things were happening, such as day 7 ROAS really improving significantly, we had no idea why. So obviously we had, like when you change, when you go to the new network, or when you do something like completely change the way you optimize and the goals of certain campaigns, you kind of know why it happened. But when you have those like long-lasting campaigns that are really, really good, and all of a sudden they become even better, and we had no idea, I knew that was a problem. Like, how can I not know why my game is performing better? On the product side, however, once we start testing something like a new channel or just want to do like creative tests or something like that, don't really care about in-app purchases or something, my colleague here often has like the problem of he's viewing the analytics, he sees the conversion is dropping and starts grabbing his head like, oh, what did we do now? What happened? What changed? And because of that silos type of work, we could have prevented them a lot of headaches, right? If we had been working more together. Just for the context, our games are more in-app driven, so 80-20% is more or less the revenue distribution. And what actually made me work on this topic a lot and invest a lot of energy in our company, yeah, because I'm rushing, by the way, I'm the head of marketing at Two Desperados. So I'm actually working a lot with the product team to kind of do a synergy of work, because this was something that was a frequent message or a sentence in the company, like marketing wants this, so we will just put it in. And I was like, this is a red flag. Like if the product team, if game designers, even developers don't understand why something is important, we have a problem. Because usually if we don't, because we were pushing a little bit aggressively, like we need this for the featuring or for the IDFA changes, and if they don't understand it, usually it tends to go back down in the backlog in terms of priorities, right? So the clicker is not working. Okay. So we needed to have this kind of energy, right? It takes two, so one cannot succeed without the another. You cannot progress through the game unless we both work on certain tasks. So my mission over the past like year has been, how do I make product and marketing work like this, right? Even though they're kind of battling in the beginning and maybe not seeing the bigger picture, I needed to create this. And I'm still working on this, by the way. It's a work in progress. It's never done. So One of the also really frequent misconception is once you start building up your game, right, growing it, usually marketing equals UA, like, right? So user acquisition and nothing else. And Andre was mentioning marketing is so much more than just UA, right? Yes, it's a huge part of it. It's probably the biggest investment or expense, if you will, in every company, but it's not just UA. Marketing is also acquisition in the sense of ASO, first party featuring support where you get free installs, influencer marketing, and of course paid UA. Engagement, which is something that we really pay a lot of attention. Because our games are like 4+ years old, we have a huge community and we really take a lot of effort into talking with them, gathering them. So customer support and social media managers are obviously here the biggest influence. Then the creative team, in such a competitive landscape, I think now you all know that there's no way to really excel at user acquisition without a really strong creative team. We've been doing some outsource, but it never works out. Like, you know your games the best, you know what performs the best, and basically, yes, you can do here and there a test, but your internal creative team is, for me, the way to go. Brand, Andre talked about that, so I'll just use to skip, and ads monetization. Now, it depends from a company to a company. In our case, ads monetization sits with marketing because, as I mentioned, we're very in-app driven. So usually what tended to happen is ads monetization looked like just a bonus. So it was going down the backlog of like, yeah, these ads improvements we can move because it's not important. And it was helping out marketing a lot in terms of ROAS. So we were able to diversify our campaigns a little bit, do some ad ROAS campaigns on Google, etc. So we merged ads monetization into marketing, but you know, other companies have different approaches. This is ours. So how do I see kind of this relationship between product and marketing? Basically, I think this is a really good visualization of it. Where do we operate? So we have the acquisition of new installs and bringing in fresh new players. We have engagement of the existing users and even re-engagement of the people that have churned, and monetization. So how do we view it? Neither marketing nor product should be like, this is none of your business and you shouldn't know this. We should be tied in everywhere. The difference is marketing is obviously the owner of acquisition, whereas product is a stakeholder. Now, to put it in like, what does this really mean, right? So let's say we are doing some type of growth strategy. What are we doing? We need to inform the product in the sense of like, we're going to try out APAC region right now, because they need to be aware that we are expanding to new markets. And also, obviously, you need to talk to your product owners. Who do they want to target? What makes sense? What doesn't? It's going to be influencing product development quite a bit. Engagement, we are partners there. Obviously, you know, game design is going to be thinking of ways to engage the audience, existing, new ones, but we have to be partners there. I can give you an example of, for example, how it helped out our game designers to include marketing in some type of like feature pitching, because they would develop this amazing feature, it would look great, it would do great and stuff like that, and they were like, it's just in time for you to ask from Google and Apple for featuring. And then we would ask questions like, yeah, but when is it appearing? And it's like, yeah, it's level 50 after they finish the onboarding and stuff like that. And it was like, level 50 is not for first party like featuring for new installs. Like, how are we going to be selling level 50 if it's new fresh installs? You have space here if you want to sit. So those kind of thoughts really started to change their way how they think about features and who are they building these specific features for. Is it the early cohorts? Is it someone who's mid, or is it the most loyal users that have matured quite a bit? And monetization, marketing is obviously a stakeholder and a huge influence on monetization, as you probably all know. User acquisition can really steer the needle quite a bit, depending on the strategy, depending on which markets are you seizing, and product is the owner in the sense of how do we monetize players. So when thinking about it, I was like, yeah, it's like Mario and Luigi, right? But actually, no. Like going back to It Takes Two, Mario and Luigi have like they're in the same team, but they never play together, right? At least not in Super Mario World Bros. So I wanted really to get that sense of it's not like now you're playing and now the other person is playing. They need to work together to achieve it. So what are the types of influences on marketing in different product cycles? Pre-launch of a new game. Something that we have really invested now a lot of time moving forward from the user acquisition is actually marketing landscape and trends. We use Sensor Tower, and I know it's really, really expensive, and for some smaller studios, it's not going to be like how am I going to, justify paying like 5K per month to do this? But you can use, for example, what Mariusz was saying in the morning, you can use it and transfer it to your team. I think that we were really underestimating the fact that you go through a lot of conferences. There's also a lot of like, how do I say, the analysis and blogs from different companies that are really, really useful that you can use. And plus there's also like the free version of App Annie and Sensor Tower available. So don't underestimate, dig a little deeper and share it with the team. Because if it only remains in marketing, there's no way it's going to be used in the right way. Testing team and art style. This is also something that we have seen, especially with our new games that are now in soft launch. Testing the palette and the hypothesis is super important. Like, yes, you're building a game that's probably going to be female-based audience. You think you know the user, but really you kind of don't. Like, I can tell you from my perspective, we were doing one-on-one interviews for the first time. I was like, I know nothing. It's like, I know something, but basically it's nothing. All of my hypotheses were wrong. Business validation, this is like very straightforward. Are your LTVs higher than your CPIs, and how much should you invest, and is there a risk and something you should change? And featuring prep, something that we didn't do for the first two games, but are really working hard right now, is to actually, once you're ready to launch the game globally, you're exiting the soft launch, you can talk to the Google and Apple representatives to pitch the idea and to get like the maximum support to get that like initial boost of visibility once you launch globally. Launch and growth, obviously growth strategy and monetization improvements, pretty straightforward, I won't go into detail there. And maturity is one of the things that, since we have such like long living games, it's great, but sometimes you tend to forget people that have been there for like playing for 2 years, right? So what we do is we started doing way more players, feedback from players. So really easily you can implement a survey in the game. And we were really surprised by how many people they can opt in. So you don't have to push your people to come in. You give a small or bigger reward depending on how much you're giving to the people. And actually it's like almost free in a way for you, so you're not giving out like money but in-game currencies, and we've had amazing results with this. Really, it helped with like feature development, it had with like understanding the players, because we tend to be a little bit disconnected from the players, even though sometimes we hate to admit it, but feedback from players is something that we're working on right now the most in improving. Helping the game improvements by feeding UA data. We had the biggest exponential growth somewhere in late 2019, and then obviously the COVID era. And UA was really struggling with the optimization crack, right? So we are optimizing for day 7. It's the usual suspect for UA optimization. However, we were struggling with our Waka Waka game because it was actually happening. The best time to see something is between day 7 and day 10. Because the conversion was happening quite late. It performed great, but for the algorithms, it was, let's say, a pain in the neck to figure out which campaigns work better, which not. And we went back to the product team and said, look, like guys, we're struggling here. How do we do this? And then one of our colleagues also had the idea to change up where are the events happening. They moved live ops events from I don't know, level 50 to level 25, and it really, really changed up the things. So this is how actually I'm looking at it. So from Luigi and Mario to a real battle royale, because we all know how competitive this this game industry is. So more of a real co-op mode in this multiplayer game. So influence of marketing on product KPIs. This is my colleague Strahinja when we do this type of like changes in and tests in the game, and then it's like even when it's going good, you finally catch a trend and you think you know what's happening in the game. Then we start doing discover a new channel, do something great, and it's like it's messing up with our analytics and our understanding of the game. So what was you, how many marketing people are here, by the way, just to kind of have a sense of the audience? And everyone else is developing the app? Yeah, okay. So this is for the marketers. What must you say to your product teams, right? So CPI fluctuation, it might seem like, you know, why would you tire people with like, oh, our CPIs are going 30% up, or it's Q4, guys, so we're preparing for, you know, Christmas times, everything is going up. It's important for the business point of view, because if the game is not changing, it means immediately your profits are going down. It doesn't have to mean, but still that cooperation where you say, guys, Q4 is coming, it's going to be a really, really challenging time for us. Could we add more live ops into the game? Like, could we add an extra, so not just Halloween, you know, Cyber Monday, Black Friday, and then the usual, you know, Christmas period. We are, for example, this year considering to also include Dia de los Muertos, even though it's going to be really tight on production, but it's going to help us build on to those CPIs and to really maintain the profits. Understand IDFA and ATT consent importance. So we mentioned IDFA a couple of times today. Why is this important? People were not really understanding what it meant for the business, like why was this such an important thing for marketing? So really talking to them about it and to really make them anticipate what is going to change obviously had like a direct impact on our ad revenue. So it was very, very important for them to understand and to help us how do we increase the opt-in rate for ATT. Country tiering. Oh, okay, I'm gonna go faster. Featuring, so learn something from me today. Don't underestimate how much time you have left. Featuring nomination success, this is also super important. Featurings are great, but they're gonna destroy your conversions, they're gonna destroy your retentions. Don't freak out, it's totally normal, but your data analytics and product people need to know this. Impacts on creatives, ad networks, and optimization goals on retention, conversion, and revenue. Basically, if you're doing misleading ads, you're gonna kill retention, right? So you need to kind of give a heads up to people like, we're testing something, probably it's gonna, you know, influence the retention and whatnot. I have to go forward, I'm sorry. Just to show you kind of, can I play this somehow? No, I cannot, that doesn't matter. It was a really cool graph of how our Japanese installs were increased and actually surpassed US in Q2 of 2021 when we finally came together and did like a proper strategy to tackling new market. So we had like 12 times more players in Japan Q1 on Q2 in 2021. We did like some type of culturalization in the app. We improved localization and we did like a massive marketing campaign there. And it's not just a fact of like, it's important to know what are your goals. So we could have increased and put it on #1 map and had no revenue from it if we just did like maximum app install campaigns. But this is actually what happened with our revenues in Japan, like month on month. Once we kind of came together and did this whole thing, it also we were also lucky that when we decided to do Japan as our new market, Olympics was happening, so we also had like extra support from Google and Apple for the Olympics pitch featuring. So we got a lot of installs in Japan based on, hey, we're following the Olympics and we're putting it in the game right now. couple of routines, I'm gonna go really, really fast. Couple of routines that I would suggest and that we're actually implementing. Quarterly market trend reports. You would be amazed how much people actually really, really love this, because it's like, you know, imagine your entire studio coming to, for example, Mariusz's presentation today and being like, oh, I had no idea this is happening. Product roadmaps, not just of the features that will be happening, but marketing activities that will be supporting it. So if I have a feature that's on level 50, coming out on 15th of July, I'm gonna start doing user acquisition to boost the engagement there on 1st of July, so that I can ramp up the installs a little bit. New feature pitching, I mentioned that a little bit, so your game designers should pitch for meetings and show, pitch to marketing and broader teams what are they planning to do, so that we can kind of not just challenge, but also come up together with maybe an even better solution. And smart retargeting and UA budget distribution. Just some of our results. We had 3 times more featuring nominations in the past year. We expanded to new markets, identified opportunities, and found blockers. Our blocker right now is we're doing amazing in tier 1 countries, the most expensive CPIs. We suck at tier 2, tier 3, and our competitors are killing it there. So it's like, okay, we need to find out how do we tackle this, and we have some plans in the pipeline. And last but not least, we had our first successful soft launch of the first non-marble shooter game that actually came out of those trend reports. I cannot say too much about it because it's like literally right now in the first phase, but basically it's super excited because we're moving away from like what we know to do and kind of branching into something new. To quote again what Andrei said this morning, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And somewhere probably on the even half marathon point. So don't think that just because I'm presenting this, we have it all figured out and you're far away from this and that. And there's just like, it's a never ending story. And once you figure something out, something new will pop up. But the whole thing is to remember, working in silos will get your growth to a plateau. At one point, definitely, like you're gonna hit a wall. It can get you so far, but if you don't start working together, there's no way. Don't underestimate the power of player feedback. Invest time and energy in team education about other functions. And I cannot move. I just have one more slide, I swear. We either fail or succeed together. Sorry for the sprint at the end. And also when you have something really important to talk about, leave yourself some time for it.
Lana, thank you very much for your presentation.
If anyone has questions, because we're out of time, feel free to ping me on LinkedIn, email, or even like now here. So
unfortunately, we are pressed for time. Sorry. Thank you very much.